Welcome to Tampa Yugioh and episode 5 of Resolving the Chain. Today I have as my guest Sebastian, aka DeadlyB7 on Duelingbook. Sebastian, introduce yourself real quick. Tell the people what you're known for.
What's up, guys? My name's Sebastian, like you said. You guys probably know me more as DeadlyB7. Basically, just I'm currently #1 on Duelingbook right now. You probably know me from been on DB Grinder's channel a lot and just constantly grinding DB, and so that's probably where you know me from.
Couple of you had at least one regional win during Orcus format, right?
Yeah, I have 3 regional tops, or actually 4, but you'll probably know me more from online laddering.
Yeah, definitely.
No premier tops yet. So.
Yeah, join the club. Well, anyway, you know how the show works. We take 5 Yu-Gi-Oh topics that are current. We kind of dig into them a little bit for 3 minutes and see what we can come up with. So you ready to get started?
Yeah, let's get it.
All right, let's move on to Chainlink 5. So at the start of this format, we saw a lot of like Drytron and VW, but as the format's kind of gone on, it's been kind of more of Dragonlink and VW. Drytron started to see less and less play, and to the point where at that last remote duel thing, we actually didn't hardly see any Drytrons join the tournament. I know you've been grinding on Dragonlink for a while. Why do you think this has kind of become one of the best decks of the meta?
So originally, Dragonlink was basically like written off because there was no like conceivable way to play through Nibiru, because after the Link Cross ban, there was no way to make Herald before Fiber in the combo, and then also the Link Cross and Buster bans made it so that there was no like obvious 2-card combo, with the Romulus being like your full combo, and so there was no like streamlined 2-card combo to be able to play. But after like playing, Drytron was just like so bad after like post side, because there was Droll, there was Cycle Readers. So Dragonlink's also just way more consistent in the virtual world, because basically all the extenders do the same thing. And they function as extenders and starters, like Chaos Space, Quick Launch, and so they get to play a lot of like the most broken extenders in the game. And obviously LP is just one of the best extra monsters in the game. And somebody on DB, Illusory Gentleman, he was doing really well with the deck, and my friend Bear Power on DB, actually, I was playing Nobles at the time after the list dropped. He sent me a list, and we basically just worked on it, and then he sent it to Gabriel Netz, who actually won the LCS. And after that, it basically just picked up in popularity because people have been playing Virtual World, and obviously the deck's very consistent. So Dragonlink, while like it doesn't play through Nibiru, like the seal and being able to add tidying and hand traps, it's just so you basically like the combo is very resilient through hand traps, and the addition of the Dragon Maid package like helped play through hand traps a lot better. So I thought it was a really good deck for the format. Obviously, Dinos also fell out of popularity, and Mystic Mine, which were some of the problems from last format.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the point about like all the starters being extenders too. Like, to me, that's one of the marks of like a really good deck, and it's kind of surprising to see that this kind of got rediscovered. I would have thought that it would have kind of carried on its popularity from the previous format, but I guess it's just one of those things where you need enough minds working on it together and enough kind of disparate ideas coming together to form like a new combo. Is that kind of what happened?
Yeah, that was honestly like the biggest thing. Is after like we were playing with the deck, it feels really like bad, because like it takes like 2 to 3 cards to combo, and most people are like, oh well, it's not Virtual Order Drytron, so it's obviously terrible. They just write it off, and they didn't actually want to test the deck. And so like through testing, like at the surface, it's like, oh, it loses to Nib so hard because you can't make like Herald before, but it's actually just not true at all. Like the deck plays through Nib very well. It plays through any hand trap, really.
Yeah, it seems like it just doesn't lose to the same stuff the rest of the stuff in the meta does. It's like a combo deck that doesn't have the same weaknesses as the other major combo decks in the format.
That was originally the purpose, was because at the time when it wasn't like one of the bigger decks, people were also making like Skullmeisters, Bells, and those are really bad versus Dragonlink. And also it has the ability to side Draco, which has come up a lot, which was basically an auto win versus Drytron post side, because you just summon it off the seal. And being able to like have hard bounces versus virtual worlds. They really struggle with like seal and tidying. So even some of your bad hands, where you just end up like seal tidying, maybe a Gamma or a Lancia, is still very strong because it just generates a ton of follow up on the turn 3, so you can usually kill them and just play through like a Chuchi or something.
Yeah,
you should be able to end with.
I think like Tidying is one of the weirdest cards that I've seen kind of come into popularity. Can you talk about that card real quick? Why has that found a place in the deck?
So it actually was one of the ideas that was added to the deck by a illusionary gentleman. I can't take credit for it. It was basically because it's searchable off LP, so it gives you something to play through Nibiru. Obviously, it's another way play through Dark Ruler, and it also just gives you follow up. And it's also it's a Mystic Mine, and it's another like interruption that's not just through monsters. So it was originally a Dark Ruler out, and there's some cool plays where you can like if you can chain it and then you can chain Dark Ruler, you can negate with Hot Red.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another way you can like be able to play through like in deck building, be able to play through Dark Ruler.
I think the interesting thing too is that like the Dragonlink decks that we're starting to see in Japan have started to incorporate that card as well. So I wonder if there's like any overlap. Kind of some inspiration.
Yeah. They also, yeah.
I think it's interesting. A lot of times we're inspired by Japan, but it's interesting to see them get inspired by us as well.
Yeah. Definitely cool to see, even though there's different lists and being able to play like they obviously have Maxi and stuff, which changes a lot.
Yeah. Well,
and no LP.
Well, speaking of Japan, we tend to see a lot of the decks that are going to kind of come up in America, or I shouldn't say America, in the TCG. We see them develop over time in Japan. Are there any decks like that have kind of been released that you're looking forward to playing yourself?
So I don't know if it's maybe a new deck, but something I have been like looking at as far as like progressing the Dragon deck like, after the list is the Dragunity structure deck. Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest cards that's coming out is Dragunity Remus. Basically lets you like discard and add Ravine, and then it's like an extender. So like it locks you out of like dragons, like locks you into dragons, but it's it basically lets you full combo. Like you can use Ravine multiple times with Zephyros. I'm sure you guys can look up the combos on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Basically, you just loop Ravine a couple times. Essentially, I'm not a big fan of it because, like, currently with LP, you don't have to play as many bricks, and like the deck's fine without it. But it seems like it's something that might be necessary after LP. Like, LP might get banned on this next list, so it's something to like play after that.
Yeah. Any new archetypes besides like the Dragunity stuff?
Not that I've seen. That was like the biggest thing is the Dragunity. There's like a couple like cool monsters out of that. One that's like an extender. If you control Ravine, you can just special it, and so it's just when you can search off Ravine, and you use a lot of like the old Dragunity like synchros. I think it's called like Gay Drag. You can just basically just send Ravine to the graveyard, which is really good, or send Zephyros to the graveyard. So that's really good.
Yeah, I think there's some interesting stuff coming out. Like I've been messing around a lot with the Abyss archetype. I think it has like a hard lid on how good it can be, but I think it's just one of those archetypes that's ripe for abuse as an engine, because you can just really empty your deck. Like the combo ends up emptying out like 7 or 8 cards out of your deck, and all of those cards are then like live extenders that are like netting you advantage and stuff. I think there might be some sort of like an Abyss combo build that comes out that ends up being really effective. I'm interested to mess around with those more.
Yeah. Another thing, what I wanted to mention was like the inevitable release of Cross-Eyed Designator.
Yeah.
I'm really just not a big fan of those cards. Like it's similar like Called by the Grave, where like it's just the worst feeling ever when a combo deck goes first. You only have one hand trap, and they like Called by the Grave it, and there's really nothing you can do. You just auto lose on the spot because they opened a card for your hand trap. So I don't know if those are like healthy for the game, but like we'll have to see how it is. Like if they end up banning Called by the Grave, or they keep just Designator at 3, or how quickly it gets hit. Because I don't know if like Called by the Grave's at 1. I don't know how they can keep Cross-Eyed Designator when it's literally a better version of it, because you can stop Nibiru, Gamma,
yeah,
Impermanence. So we'll have to see how they want to adjust the card.
Yeah, honestly, I think we're kind of like we've been in a control format for so long that I feel like they may just let it go hog wild. Like, just have crossout designator at 3, or it could just be one of those cards like needle fiber that we just don't see for years and years at a time.
Yeah,
it's so hard to predict with these
I wouldn't say
we.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we're in a control format because basically, like the past year, where we had Emancipator and Dragonlink, and now Virtual World, where basically if you don't see a hand trap and they open the combo, then it's almost impossible to win most of the time, and unless you're like playing like a set 5 trap deck, and even then those decks have weaknesses to other decks. So I really hope they get away from the combo format, but I feel like Cross-Site Designator kind of strays us in the other direction towards a combo format.
Yeah,
So,
I guess when I mean control format, we've seen so many formats where the only like viable control deck was Altergeist that it's just refreshing to actually see other decks that can play with traps. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you got Eldritch,
I guess Eldritch is like the new trap.
Dogmatica, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a little bit. I don't know.
Fair.
It's just a little bit more of a variety that I feel like we've needed for a while. So I guess that's kind of in the spirit that I mean it's a control format. Games can be a little grindier.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, let's move on to Chainlink 3. Obviously, DeadlyB7, you're at the top of the dueling book ladder, and you have been for a while now, too. You've been grinding a lot. What are some tips for people who want to climb up the online dueling ladder?
So basically, the first format that I especially grinded with was the Orcus format, and I think that was the format where I first had like my first success. So winning the regional and topping 3 regionals in a row, and I think like the biggest thing is just to just get reps. So essentially, just the more you play and the more you talk to other people, that's probably one of the biggest things of playing on the ladder is you'll meet a lot of people along the way through like discords and tournaments and money matches. So like on the surface, like it might not be advantageous to just play DB because there's no stakes, but I would say that Dueling Book is probably like one of the best ways to improve like as a player. So just play like consistently, and also like don't try and like switch decks. Like I would say just like get one deck and just play it as like consistently as possible. And like once you get past like it's like 800 rating, like like grinding out at the start of the format around 800 is like pretty tough because you're gonna play against some people who are just like horrible at the game. But after that, you're playing against some pretty like competent players most of the time, and like the players at the top are probably better than most people at your locals. So yeah, I would just say like stay consistent and try to get out like the bottom. And once you get to the top, you'll learn a lot from like the game and like how it's like progressed.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like how good do you feel like the quality of practice that you get is compared to like playing in person?
I think the biggest thing is just the reps that you get. Like you'll get way more reps than driving. Like let's say like I drive personally like 40 minutes to locals. Driving there, maybe the first 2 rounds you'll play against somebody who has no idea what they're doing, and so you'll maybe get like 1 round that's good, and you're waiting 20 to 30 minutes in between each round sometimes. So you just get to like, all right, hop into a game, you brick, all right, just hop into the next game. You don't have to wait 40 minutes for the next one. You just get those reps in and test your deck like more consistently than if you're sitting at locals and just waiting around for the next round.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess I can see the appeal of that. Just like, it's one of those things that the way the best players have gotten good is that they just play reps. Like they're able to play it in person and sometimes online. But like, Pat Hoban's book, The Road to the King, like he talks about like 36-hour just marathon dueling sessions where they're just playing game after game after game.
Yeah.
And Dueling Book is like the average player's way to do that. Not everybody has the time to do that in person, but you're saying that you feel like you get good quality practice online.
Yeah. Also, a lot of people just don't have the access to like top quality players around their locals. Like there may be like a handful of people that know what they're doing, but being able to play online and like ladder up to the top. Also, this gives you a ton of deck ideas. Like you'll see just somebody randomly have like a tech. You're like, whoa, that's insane. Like, let me try it out. Sometimes it could be terrible, but sometimes it's also like very nice. Like the Steamer Dragon Maids, obviously, that we saw. So it's just really interesting to see other people's perspective on decks that you might not see in your local circle.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah. So do you feel like it's a good place to try out kind of like wonkier stuff too? I mean, you're obviously you're not paying your $5 to enter.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can be a lot more lenient on like what you want to try. So you don't have to, you don't have to like be super invested in what you're playing, since you maybe drove like 30 minutes to a deck and you have to pay for entry. And if you lose maybe a match because you played it, then you're not punished very hard. You just sit there, take it out, play the nice game.
Yeah, you get to listen to whatever music you want, like watch TV, hang out with people, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that being a good benefit. I'm kind of a person. This thing's so laggy right now. I'm kind of a person who I don't like playing online. Like, basically, the only like the way I use Dueling Book is just as like a deck build simulator and like solo hands. So let me just tell you like some of my problems with dueling online, and maybe you can hit me back with like, this is that's not really a problem and here's why, or something like that. Are you game for that? All right, let's hit it. So.
Okay.
So you kind of touched on one of the things that I hate, which is just like the sheer stupidity of people that you play at the lower ranks. Like, I mean, everybody sees the videos. Like, Distant Coder has all the videos of like judge calls on Dueling Book, and just people have no idea. So I think it's one of those things where like I don't want to deal with that. Then there's also kind of the toxicity that kind of goes hand in hand with it. Yeah, I just like. I don't want somebody rushing me. I don't want somebody like, me having to rush them and them getting, kind of thrown a little bit of a fit about it. How often do you kind of run into that kind of stuff? Am I overestimating the amount of people like that on there?
No, I think that's a valid argument. My biggest tip for that, I think, would be like to grind up your way from the lower ranks at the start of the format when everybody's at that rank. And so like you'll have a lot of the top players, like since everything gets reset at the end of every format. Also, like there are some players that they're just horrible to play versus. Like there's complete nightmares. I won't name any of them, but there's like literally a list that the whole community just hates to play versus. It's just super slow, but overall, like most players are generally pleasant to play against, since like you only have to play a match versus them. And I would just recommend making sure there's a judge online, so they're usually pretty quick. Also, once you play for a while, like you'll like meet some judges. Like I know a handful of judges that if there's like quick call, like somebody's AFK or something, I'm not waiting around for 30 minutes. I can just hit them up and they'll help me out most of the time. So yeah, that's what I would say.
So what about like misclicks? Like even just doing like combos and stuff, I find that I click the wrong thing all the time. And then when I play against somebody, that friggin' show hand button has to be the most annoying thing. You know what I'm talking about? Like it's at the top of the. Do you ever? How often do like misclicks come up, or like just frustrating stuff like that?
I think they come up sometimes, but like the policy is essentially you just click it back, type misclick, and like after a while, like you kind of get used to like the interface. I'm sure like if you're starting out, you might like have some troubles with it, but like the more you play, like you'll get used to it. And really the only like problem that you'll have sometimes is like maybe like the opponent like might strike you on something like small, but like most of the time most opponents are pleasant to play versus. You'll probably be fine if it's a small misclick.
Trying to think, like those are like the biggest things for me that I'm just like, it just seems like more of a hassle than it's worth. But I feel like you've kind of put in the time to get ahead of all that, which I think that's that's kind of a good way to do it. And I like your advice about grind out at the start of the format. So you might have a better chance of encountering quality opponents.
Yeah, I think the biggest advantage of like playing online is just honestly meeting a ton of people. Like I started out like a lot of the discords. Like I started out in a discord called Sin or Syndicate, and then I was also in True Man's World, which is another discord where it's just players are constantly in a VC just talking about the game. And I recently just joined WAF, which is a Discord with a lot of the European players, and like players like Nesh, Ryan Yu, some like well-known players that like are in there. You can constantly just talk about the game, deck lists, and I think I've really improved from that. Just getting in a call with them and talking over plays. Like the game is completely different. Like when you talk to people, you're just at a different level. So I think that's the biggest part of it, is just to talk to people and get other people's
I think that's kind of an element that's been missing for me, because like I actually do like playing online. I prefer not to, but I like it when it's somebody that I know that I can hop on Discord or something and actually vocalize instead of having to type and like declare and all that stuff. So it sounds like that's
a lot of like a lot of like theory, also just constantly just talking about deck choices, where like maybe nobody at your locals plays the same deck. You just talk to like somebody about like the deck, the theory, who also plays the deck online. So you just bounce out ideas off them or what.
And actually, we're out of time on that one, but I just wanted to hit something real quick. Like, what would be the top feature you would want to see either added to Dueling Book or incorporated into like an official simulator?
Yeah. So the best one that they just added was one that like helps against like disconnects. So they made it like rejoin after like 90 seconds, and it won't count. I think that was the best like thing they could have added, because that was the biggest complaint, is if you just DC, you're rating as tanks. So yeah, I think that was the best one, and honestly the problem that had just had to be fixed.
All right, makes sense. Let's move on to the last Chainlink 1. We got a ban list coming up soon. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody has ideas of what needs to be on it. I've kind of covered this before, but I was interested, since you spend so much time playing each format, what do you want to see hit on this list? And maybe what are some popular things that you think shouldn't be hit?
Yeah, so obviously the BFD ban, I guess, is like obligatory. But another thing is that I think no one really is suggesting another hit for Virtual World, like maybe like Lulu to 1 or like Lao Lao to 1. I think like if DFD gets banned, it's just gonna be like Orcus with when they hit like Rusty. Like the deck's gonna find another way to just still be like a super popular deck, since like the reason Virtual World is so good is because all their monsters like don't have effects on the field, and they're very hard to interact with hand traps. So like another hit to like the consistency of the deck, it's already inconsistent. If they were to hit like Lulu to 1 or maybe like a Qinglong to 1 or something like that, so they can't play Desires. Just something that like really messes with the consistency of the deck is necessary. And then the next thing that I wanted to bring up was like as a combo player, I might be biased, but I think something has to be done about like Servant, or specifically Shadal Schism. Like I think it's like fine if they're going like still powerful, but just sending like Titanic Clad and adding a floor. But when they're searching a Floodgate off App Clone, I feel like it's kind of degenerate, where if they just open Alistair Servant, they're sitting on Mechaba plus Winda, and they're searching a Floodgate on the first turn, which is like kind of degenerate. And like I think hitting like Schism like kind of like overlaps with Shadal, so I don't know if it's necessary, but I feel like something either Schism or Servant to 1 is like a warranted hit. And then the next is obviously LP. I think it just like provides too much toolbox for the deck, and as long as that card's alive, Dragonlink is going to be playable. So like it's been out for a while now. I think it warranted a hit. Like it's been warranting a hit for a while. Then obviously like a Drytron hit. So like Ben 10 is like the most obvious one, but another one I think people don't think about is like Orange Light. I think cards like Orange Light and like call it Adamantipator, Walking Mirror, Guardian, cards that like stop hand traps are just not healthy for the game and just promote like these degenerate combo decks. So I'm not really a fan of that. And then also another common topic is like Dragoon. People say like, oh, like this card's unhealthy, but I think the card's like overall fair because you have to play the bricks. But I think when they're playing like 3 Red Eyes Insight, 3 Red Eyes Fusion, that's when it starts to get like a little like I don't know about that consistency, because they're basically seeing Red Eyes Fusion every game. But I think if they put like Red Eyes Fusion to 1 or something, and they made it so like you can only send it off Anaconda, it might just be a little more fair. You have to play like I don't know, tour guide for a BA or something to make Anaconda. You gotta play more
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
I
think
then,
yeah.
like
I think like the pure Dragoon decks are kind of like annoying to deal with. Like the Guru, like when Guru won that event, it was not Guru winning the event. It was straight up Dragoon, Dragoon Turbo. So like Dragoon plus Floodgates is just
agreed.
I think the card itself is extremely unfair, but it's fine because of the bricks. But backing it up with like a summon limit or something is just cancer.
Exactly.
Like it's so annoying to deal with.
Yeah. I think the Anaconda makes it more fair, so at least lose like Veiler, Impermanence, every hand trap. And then the last one I had was just like an Eldritch hit, so like Scarlet to 1 or something like that. And then like a Dino hit, so maybe like Miscellaneous to 1. And then I think Harp and Stalia can come back from Eternal format. 'Cause I think Orcus is just like power creep, to be honest. Like all the monsters are literally bricks. Nightmare, you have to play a ton of bricks for the deck to be good. And it's just Sounding Great's always been fair.
Yeah.
So.
I like your idea of Herald of Orange Light too, because I think if you put that to 1, then the Herald Eva just becomes like not as broken as it is. Like Herald Eva right now is insane because that's 3 gammas, like with 2 cards. But if you put it to 1, then maybe it's like a gamma and like I don't know, Magic Jammer or something. You know, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a neat hit.
I get that like hitting Ben 10 kind of like limits the accessibility to Orange Light, but at the same time, like Orange Light's pretty like ridiculous card.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think those are some good hits. Like, oh wait, did the Madolche guy play the Orange Light?
Yeah. Well, I know like some people do play it because you can add it back with the field spell and Chateau.
All right.
It was more a joke.
No, well, I all I know is that the Madolche guy got like top 4 at the remote duel or whatever, and I still haven't watched the deck list or anything. So.
Oh yeah. I didn't even see that.
Yeah, I think he was just playing like the basic thing that this format is, which is put up an unkillable monster, and when your opponent can't out it, you just kill them next turn. So, and Madolche can do that better than a lot of decks.
Exactly.
Well, not better than a lot of decks, but better than a lot of rogue decks can.
Exactly. That's another reason why I think like Eldritch should probably get hit, because it's basically just like splashed in every backer deck. Like you can't really play a backer deck without like. Oh, I also forgot Zexal actually. That raised my mind. I definitely. Think
I don't know if
Zexal
that card does
hit.
enough. For, like, I mean, like it's okay, but in most decks that play it use it as like an upstart goblin. Like just skip your turn and then they don't kill you anyway.
Yeah, it is, but like I think it just like creates for like unhealthy like formats where like if they just summon a Zexal. Although I think there's like new support that's coming out that helps make Zexal, so that's another reason why.
All right, well that's time on that one. Let's move on to the outro. Yeah, do you have anything you want to plug? Do you want to plug your brother's YouTube channel, or do you have a YouTube channel of your own you want to do?
Nah, I don't. If you guys just want to send me dono codes, then on Dueling Book you can. But yeah, nothing really. I don't have any like socials or anything you can follow me on, unless you want to hit me up on like Facebook or anything that you can find. But
all right, well, I appreciate your time, Sebastian. We knocked out all 5 topics, and honestly, a little bit more than 3 minutes. So I appreciate your extra thoughts on those too. All right, well,
no problem.
Dragonlink best deck. Yeah, well, you heard it here first. until LP gets destroyed on the next ban list.
Oh, it'll still be the best deck, to be honest. Just
yeah, for sure.
Well, figure it out.
I mean, you know, it's weird because like dragons are one of the least supported types in the game. I don't know how this deck is still able to play. I mean, like dragons just don't have any good cards. They never print good dragon cards.
I mean, they printed Chaos Space.
I'm 100% being sarcastic. It's like the most supported type in the game. Dragons, machines, spellcasters, and warriors.
Yeah.
Reptiles represent.
Yeah. They love dragons. Always.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time. I've been John. This is Sebastian, aka DeadlyB7. Find him at the top of the Dueling Book ladder, and at a Jacksonville regional near you. like, subscribe, share the video with somebody who you think might like it, and I'll see you next week. All right, I stopped it. Man, that delay was killer, dude.